Hi there and welcome to the next video in this Euro 2020 series. In this video we're going to take a look at more data modelling. We are currently at the point where we've collected the Euro 2020 results using BeautifulSoup and web scraping techniques in Python. We have modelled each result as a result class and these are the objects here, so each match in the tournament is represented as a result. Now what we want to do is we want to calculate some overall statistics for each team. So what we're going to do in this tutorial is create team models that are going to capture certain statistics about the team, such as how many games did the team play, how many goals did they score, how many did they concede, what was the tournament goal difference, and how many of their games went to penalties. So these are different metrics essentially that are applied to each team in the tournament, and we need to model that with a class so we can easily access those statistics. So there are different ways we could do this. You could simply use a dictionary, but in this case what we're going to do is create a container class, which comes with the added benefit of allowing us to apply instance methods that encapsulate particular functionality. So that's a lot of words. I think it's time to get started with the code. So let's do that now and define a class called TeamStats. So it's going to be a data class as before, and we'll call it TeamStats. And I'm just going to copy the relevant metrics that we're going to look at in this video. So we have the team name, which is a string, the games they've won, drawn and lost, they're all integers, the goals that they've scored and the number of goals that they've conceded, both integers, and the number of games that went to penalties, which is also an integer. So those are the statistics that we're going to calculate for each team, and we're going to do that now. But first of all, let's have a look at defining a property. Now this is something that you can do in Python. It's a property decorator, and it means that even though what we're about to write is a function, it can actually be accessed from the object as if it was a property. So let's write the function now, and the function is going to be goal difference. This is just a convenience function that is going to return an integer representing the team's goal difference in the tournament, and it's simply going to be self.goals scored minus self.goals conceded. So this is looking at the goals scored instance variable and the goals conceded variable, and it calculates the subtraction of those two, and that is the goal difference for the team. And now that we've got that, let's move on, and I'm going to paste some text in here to explain the next step in this process. So what we need to do now is create the team stats object for each team in the tournament, and we're going to do that from the result classes that we've got that contain the home and away teams. So what we're going to do is use some Python set logic to create a union to get all the distinct teams from the home and away teams. So we're going to use the Python AND operator for the set union. Let's see how to do that now. So what we're going to do is say each team, or rather all teams, and it's going to be a set comprehension in this case. So we're going to get all the home teams. So we look at the results and we extract the home team from those results, and that gives us a set with all the home teams. Remember, of course, a set has unique elements, so what we can then do is take the set union with the away teams, so that will be r.away for r in results. So what this is doing, this line here, is creating a set union between all of the home teams in the results and all of the away teams. And then when we get all the away teams and all of the home teams as two sets, if we do the union, we will get all of the teams in those two sets in one set here called all teams. And remember, of course, sets do not contain duplicates, so this will return all the teams as distinct teams. And if we look at that, we get all of the teams there. So now that we've got that, what we can do is create the team stat object. So let me copy a comment I've got here. Right, so we create the team stats object for each team in that all teams set. So it's going to be teams. We'll do a list comprehension for that, and we'll instantiate our team stats class. And we'll just say for A in all teams, team stats A. And remember, A is the first parameter to the team stats object. In this case, it will be the name, and the rest of the parameters default to 0. So the default value for all of the other fields on the class is 0. So this is going to create an object for all of the teams in the tournament with the name, and all of the other values set to 0. So if we look at teams after that, and I need to run this data class that we've defined. If we run this now, we get back all the team stats objects with the names of each team, and of course all of the metrics are set to 0 by default. So now the next step is to populate these metrics, and we're going to do that now. We can populate the metrics by writing a function. I'm going to do that in the next code block here. So let's import the list construct from the typing module, and we'll call this function parseTeamStats. And this is going to take in the results, which is going to be a list of the result objects, and it will return a list of team stats objects. So we're going to pass the results that we got from the scraping and the other data class that we created for the results, and then we're going to convert them into a list of team stats. So again, I'm going to copy this code here, the function. We're going to create team stat objects for all of the teams in the tournament, and what we can then do is iterate over all the results. So for result in results, remember results is the parameter passed in, we can extract the home and the away team by saying result.home and result.away. And then once we have that, we're going to write the logic for updating the home and away teams. So I'm going to paste in this code because it's quite a lot of code and it's quite a lot of logic here, and let's walk through what it does. So basically we have a list here of team stat objects, and what we want to do is for each team in the result, for the home and the away team, we want to find the corresponding team stat object and then update certain attributes on that. So we find the home team, for example, by iterating over all of these teams and using the next function to find the first team and the only team that has the correct name, which is equal to the home team that's extracted from the result. Once we find the home team stat object, we can then update its goals scored attribute by adding the result.home goals. We can update its goals conceded attribute by adding the results away goals, and we do the exact same thing for the away team. And then once we've done the goals scored and conceded, we can then do things like updating how many games the teams have won. So if the winner of the game was the home team, we can update the team stat object games won property for the home team, add 1 to it. Similarly for the away team, that would update the games lost by 1. And the inverse logic, if the away team wins the game, then the games lost is updated for the home team and the games won for the away team. And finally, if it was a draw, we update the games drawn for both teams and add 1 to them. So we're doing this in a for loop, and we're using plus equals to add 1 where relevant. Finally, we check if the result went to penalties, so if the penalty winner is not none, and we know in that case that the match went to penalties, so we update the penalty games by 1. So I can run this code, and well, let's define the code, and then in the next cell we're going to call the code, and I'll just paste that in a new code block. So we call the parseTeamStats function that we've just defined, and we pass in the results, and we can get back the team stats objects for each team in the tournament by using this method. So let's have a quick look at that. We see now we have the metrics are populated for each team. Ukraine have won 2 games, they've lost 3 games, scored 6 goals, conceded 10, and then had no games that went to penalties. So we've successfully gathered this data and we've populated the metrics using this new team stat object oriented approach. And because now we've got the metrics populated, we can now do some interesting analysis based on the metric values. So let's, for example, say we wanted to calculate the top 5 goal differences. So what 5 teams in the tournament had the best goal difference? So we'll set n to 5 and we'll say top goal diff, and we're going to use the sorted function in Python, and we'll call that over the team stats that we've just collected here. Remember, this is a list of team stat objects. We need to pass a key in here, and I'm going to pass in a lambda function. It's going to be lambda x, and we're going to use the property that we defined, the goal difference property. Let's have a look at that quickly. Remember, this is a function, but because we've decorated it with at property, we can actually access it as a property, as so. and we can pass reverse equals true to get the highest values first. So if we then get the top n of those, and at the moment n is set to 5, we can then print those out and find out which teams had the best goal difference. And we can see that the teams with the best goal difference, Italy, England, Spain, Belgium and Denmark. And if we look at why that's the case, Italy scored 13 goals and conceded 4, so that's a goal difference of 9. England scored 11, conceded 2, that's a goal difference of 9 as well. Then we have Spain, they scored 13 and they conceded 6, so a goal difference of 7, and so on. So we found the top 5 teams by their goal difference there, and we could change n to, in this case, 10 or anything we wanted to get the top 10 or the top n number of teams. So now that we've done that, we can also do some other interesting analysis. Let's say we wanted to find out how many teams have went to penalties, or what are the top teams that were involved in penalty shootouts. So, you know, for t in team stats, we're going to say return t if t.penalty games is greater than 0. So if the team is involved in a penalty shootout, then we will get that. And you can see that we get the 5 teams that were involved in penalty shootouts. And if we wanted to see the team name in the counts, we could adapt the list comprehension slightly and return a tuple. So we'll say t.name, t.penalty games, and that will give us back just the 2 attributes we need. So France involved in 1 penalty shootout, Spain in 2, Switzerland and Italy in 2, England in 1. So we've managed to see that data there. So there's actually a lot we can do with this. We can figure out, for example, who's scored the most goals, who has conceded the most goals. Let's do that now. We're going to check who scored the most goals. And what I'm going to do is copy this code here, and we'll copy it down and define the lambda function slightly differently. It's going to be t.goals scored, and we'll rename this as top goals. And this should give us the teams that scored the most goals, the n teams. And we see that if we look at the goals scored, we see Spain with 13, Italy with 13 as well, so they're the joint top. And then we've got Denmark with 12, England with 11, and so on. So that gives us the top goals, and again we can just change the name of this attribute to goals conceded, and we'll get the teams that actually let the most goals in. And Ukraine are top, they conceded 10, we have Switzerland with 9, Croatia and Turkey with 8, North Macedonia with 8. So we're using the attributes on our team stat objects to extract interesting insights into the tournament, finding out which teams scored the most goals, won the most games, and so on. And what we can do in the next video is we can start looking at Python's data analytics libraries such as pandas and matplotlib, and we're going to look at how we can analyze this data further and plot the data on charts and visualizations. So we'll look at that next. That's all for this video. Thanks very much for watching it. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. You can find the code on GitHub, and there is an associated blog post as well. So thanks again, and see you in the next video.